I do want to reflect for a moment before I call Tom Sampson up. And today we have Troy McLeod, the Director of Roads, with us as well. Before I call Tom up, I just want to reflect a little bit on where we are in this journey. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about, have we peaked? Are we about to peak? What happens now? I've heard a lot of people talk about, it's been a month and I'm getting a bit of cabin fever, especially as the calendar changes and the spring comes, and I'm getting frustrated. And, on Wednesday, we spoke about why this is important, about remembering that this is a matter of life and death. It really is. It's about people's lives, and it's about keeping ourselves healthy, but even more important, keeping at risk people in our community healthy. We're learning a lot about ourselves through all of this. We're learning a lot about our community and our society and how it all works. I've been answering a lot of kids' questions, and some of them are very practical. When can I use the playground again? But a lot of them are really thoughtful about, what does this mean for my mom who works in long term care? And how should we be thinking about her and her job? And I've been thinking, we keep talking about how we want things to go back to the way they were. And I wonder if we can have a higher standard than that. Can we go towards something that is even better than what it was before? But what is important is, even as we're talking about this, even if we were reaching the peak, remember there's the whole other side of the mountain. So we are nowhere near through all of this. I saw a very interesting clip where the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, was speaking yesterday in German, and I don't speak German, so I have to assume the subtitles were correct. But her point was that there is a very, very, very small margin of error in what we're doing here. She was talking about how in Germany, and I'm going to have the numbers wrong, but how in Germany, each person who is infected is spreading that infection to, was it 1.1 other people, Tom? Something like that. That's called the R naught number if you're a nerd like me. And she was saying if that goes from 1.1 to 1.3, that starts to overwhelm the healthcare system. If it goes from 1.1 to 1.5 or 1.6, it means the healthcare system cannot cope. So the margin of error is extremely small. And here in Alberta, we are still using an R naught of well over 2.6 last time I checked, right, Tom? Which means that we have even less of a margin of error. So we cannot afford to become complacent. We have to continue to be unbelievably careful in everything we do. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Tom Sampson in a second. But as he speaks, I want you to keep something in mind. And I've said this a lot lately, and I just want to make sure there is absolute clarity and there is no mixed messaging on this. If you can stay home, stay home. There are 4 exceptions to when you cannot be home. If you're delivering an essential service, if you are volunteering to help someone deal with their essential needs that cannot leave home, if you are doing your weekly shopping for your family, and if you can, that should be one member of the family. Obviously, if you're a single parent, you've got to take your young children. There are exceptions, but you should try to make that one member of your family. And number 4 is if you are going out to get a little bit of fresh air, for, call it an hour a day, and that really should be, as best you can, near your home, spread out during the day. And I'll say a little more about that later. But remember, the message is still stay home. Stay home, be kind, and together we'll save lives. So with that, let's turn it over to the main event. I'm just the opening act. Chief Tom Sampson of the Calgary Emergency Management Agency, who's got a number of things to talk to you about, and then we're going to hear from Troy McLeod. Tom?
Thanks, Your Worship. And so just to remind you, we remain in a state of local emergency. It was renewed on Wednesday for another 7 days. We've all been cooped up with many weeks and spring weather on the way, even though it's a little bit of spring rain. I know many of you will want to get out and explore the city. You know, we're doing well with the physical distancing and we're making it work. I get that this is super hard. It's hard on my family, as I imagine it's hard on yours also. I really do get it. But we all need to find our own why we do it. What's the reason why we're going to drive ourselves so hard? Not just because, His Worship the Mayor said, this is what you have to do, or that I, standing here in a uniform, tell you what we need to do. You need to figure out why you're going to do it, because that kind of that kind of motivation, that internal motivation to do something is much stronger than if I try and tell you what to do. So, if you're well, please stay in your neighborhood to avoid overcrowding of popular areas. Don't gather in groups outside your normal family cohort. If you're going out into the parks, those water fountains and the high touch surface areas, those are the things that you want to stay away from. They can be a real challenge. If you get into we had a complaint the other day that we should close a park because the parking lot was crowded and that people were running into each other getting out of a car. And I guess I just say to you, this is a simple one, right? If you drive into a parking lot and it's quite busy and there's a number of people around, just stay in your car until the people right beside you have a chance to get out. It's the way we do it in Calgary, right? We can do those things. And it just takes a little bit more patience, but we don't want to close a park because two people ran into each other in the parking lot. This is easy, and I know we can do it. So, you know, walk your dog around the community. Find that green space in your community. If your the park you want to go to is too busy, maybe find another one. I invite you to go find some of the spectacular areas of your community. What a great way to get out and about. There's also about 1,800 playfields in the city, so you can get there. Um, and so you can hear what I'm saying to you. I'm asking you to try and stay away from others. That's what we need to do. Um, People will say the curve is flattening. I I'm not happy with how flat it is, and I hope you're not either in terms of where we can be. So we can continue to do what we're doing, and we continue to do better. Better yet, as the mayor says, you know, enjoy your own backyard and balcony. If you have the barbecue going, or you have you know, a fire pit in your backyard, and and if people come over, they've got to stay more than 6 feet away from you. We are having a few of those things occur where people are all jammed up in a backyard. Not the best way to do it. Um, and so enjoy yourself. I'm going to digress for a minute if I can, and I won't do it well because I just want to talk to you for a second. I had uh, a former colleague call me late last night, and they were really concerned. They'd had a situation occur in their family where they'd lost one of their family members, and she sort of said, "Tom, what do I do?" Right? My daughter is beside herself. She's been self isolating for a protracted period of time, and is being as strict can be. And my husband and myself have been self isolating, and we've been as strict can be. We haven't even been out. And you know, and she said, my daughter's not doing well, and I'm concerned for her well-being from a mental health and wellness perspective. And you know, my advice was to follow Dr. Henshaw's advice, really, which is in these most extreme circumstances, you can change the cohort of your family. And when both parties have been isolating, you can get together and create this cohort family that then isolates together, right? And so you don't have to sacrifice your mental health to to stay isolated, and you can change the cohort up a bit. And you know, I just think that's really important. I kind of dove off script for a second, but this thing has three heads to it, right? So it's COVID, the virus. There's the COVID, the mental health and wellness challenge. And there's COVID, the effect it's having on the economy, which is compounded by the effect on the price of oil in Calgary. And so we have all three of those things to balance out. And I would say to you, that's what we're looking for you to do. Find the balance and do the right thing. And I know you can do it. We've got a great history of doing that. Be kind also to your neighbors. We've had a few complaints about fire pits getting a little bit out of hand. And while you can call 311 to do that, that's not cool. It's not the best way to resolve it. What the best way to resolve it is keep your fire pit a little bit lower, keep it clean and burn. burning cleanly if that's what you're going to do. And hopefully everybody gets away from the tension of sort of feeling angry at each other as we're cooped up a bit. So I know you can do the right thing, and I know we can all make it happen. Now, I heard this great term this morning, quarantining. And I know that's not really a word, but it's happening at our house right now. My wife's painting and throwing things out. And it's almost a natural opportunity, you would think, to have a garage sale. But I need you to, to please hang on to those household items, and please do not have a garage sale. It's not what we want. You don't want people walking through your areas. You don't want people picking up and handling everything that you're going to put away at night. And so please, no garage sales. Now, with respect to our waste and recycling services, we are starting Tuesday, April 21st, going to be able to leave out extra bags of waste if your carts are full. So if your black cart is full, you can put out extra garbage bags. If your green cart's full, you can put out those paper yard waste bags, right? But for the sake of our collectors, maybe fill your cart up as much as you can, because of course those are lifted mechanically, and roll the tops on your paper bags so that they're all ready to get thrown into the truck when they happen. Make sure your plastic bags, if you put bags out beside your bins, make sure they're securely tied. It's just not fair for the handlers to pick up that material and go to move it to their truck and realize that they've got to take that extra time to tie it up so that it doesn't spill out, or that it doesn't spill out on them. And I'll put my own piece in here as an old paramedic. Make sure that you don't put sharps in there. That's what we're most concerned for our waste and recycling folks, is we don't want them to get into sharps. So you're doing a great job, and I thank you for that. So this weekend, to make sure that we're doing some physical distancing, we're going to have a park safety squad out there for you. That's a combination of our parks folks and our bylaw officers, just reminding you of giving yourself a little break. But you know what? The real guy here who can tell you about it is Troy McLeod, our director of roads, and he's got some information on what we're doing and how we're doing it, and maybe he'll even throw in a bit about what's happening with street cleaning coming up very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Sampson. Yes, roads is underway as far as street sweeping goes for all major roads and bikeways and pathways. That's been happening already. What is happening next week, starting Monday, is we're going into communities. And what we need Calgarians to do is to move their vehicle out of the way so that our crews can get that roadway cleaned up so it's safe for you to walk on when you need to, and create that social spacing for others. The other aspect is we're tightening up the time that you have to have your vehicle off the street. So from 8 to 4 p.m., we're putting out signage so that you can have your vehicle out of the way. But as soon as crews go through there and that roadway is clean, you can return your vehicle back to the parking spot that you had. The other thing that we will be doing is enforcement along with those vehicles that are remaining, but we will not be issuing any tags. But you'll have the opportunity to sweep that street sweeping up later into a double bag into the black bin. So we'll be reviewing those in July, and any roadways that were cleaned up, we won't be issuing any tags for that work. So we appreciate everyone's help. Moving your vehicle is the best way to do it. So please do that if you can. If you are unable, there's another opportunity to be able to clean that up. So those are a couple things that are happening. To find out about street sweeping, go to calgary.ca/sweep. That's the best way to get the information that you need. You can get an alert. It'll send it right to you. You can watch our crews live on the map if you like. They'll be out and about. Other ways that you can do it is look for signage. And you can find that again at calgary.ca/sweep. Thank you. Chief Sampson.
So I can tell you that there's not a lot of movement going on at the Sampson household outside right now, but I did go out and sweep my own street, and that's a good thing to do. So that makes it so much easier on your crews. And I got out there. I had surprisingly amount of sort of gravel, but onward, right? It works. And please don't send me the complaint that you pay taxes. I'm just telling you what I did. It's okay. To end, I want to thank you I know how difficult it can be. And this isn't a case of that we're not doing what you're not doing. We're all in this together. We can get through it together. I want to remind you that our friends and our community partners have created an online tool to help Calgarians keep active and safe while preventing the spread of COVID-19. So go to calgary.ca/at-home, and that's got some materials and whatnot you can do with your kids, games you can play, those sorts of things. And I'll throw it over to His Worship the Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tom. There was a lot of content there with both of Tom and Troy. So just again, street sweeping starts, calgary.ca/sweep. That's where you will know when to come. You just have to be out when the sweeper goes by. You can see them coming in real life. You can also see them coming on that map, online. Get your car out of the way. And then as soon as they go by, you can put your car back as to where it was. That's the best thing to do. And as Troy says, you won't get a ticket this year if you then sweep it up yourself, double bag it, and put it in the black bin. Who wants to do that? Just move your car. And then it will all be good for all of us. The other thing that I should remind people that Tom pointed out is do be kind to your waste and recycling collectors. And just make sure that they know what those extra bags are. So if it's yard waste, remember it can't go in a plastic bag because then it can't be composted. It has to be in a paper bag. And of course, if it's extra trash in your black bin, that should go in a regular strong garbage bag. So just make sure that you are looking out for the people who are looking after you. Now, I know that you just want to get out. I know that you're thinking, if I can do something that is socially distant, I can go see my friends. We can have a picnic in the park as long as we're 2 meters apart. I'm asking you not to do that. I'm asking you to think about our frontline workers. I'm asking you to think about our healthcare workers, our grocery store workers, our security guards, our delivery drivers. I want you to think about my mom. And we're not there yet. We have to ensure that we are continuing to do everything we can to prevent the spread of the virus. Remember, clean hands. It's not just about washing your hands for 20 seconds. It is about doing every possible thing you can do to prevent the spread of the virus. It's about acting like you already have it and you don't want to spread it, not like someone who doesn't want to get it. It's about imagining that every single person who is in your wake is your 90-year-old grandmother. These things still matter. I know you're probably getting sick of hearing me say it, but they really do matter. The future is in our own hands. Clean hands, clear heads, open hearts. Oh, now, if you are going out, as Tom said, use your backyard, use your balcony, explore your own neighborhood. Make sure you're keeping that 2 meters or 6 feet or a full-size llama apart. Use the pathways, what we call them engineered walkways, and in a miracle of bureaucraties, those are the pathways within your communities. Use those, even use the alleyways if you like. But we have a new plan and a new idea for you, which is if you're out on the sidewalk, follow the flow of traffic. So if you're on a road that has a sidewalk on both sides, consider the sidewalks to be one way. That way you're not going to be having to pass people, and you can keep that distance between you and the people in front and the people behind you. And this is sort of a silly, fun thing. That's something for the kids to do. Get some chalk out on the sidewalks and paint arrows, reminding people what direction to walk in. And for now, we will continue that one-way thinking. It's just a matter of keeping ourselves just a little bit more safe. And if you are in your vehicle, be mindful that there are way more people walking. There's some really interesting stats that our transportation department has shown, which is how much driving has gone down and how much walking and cycling has gone up. So really be mindful. And yes, I shouldn't have to say this, but the fact that the road is empty does not mean it is now a speedway. We're seeing increases in people driving carelessly, there you go, which does happen when there's less traffic on the road. Don't do that. And yes, our colleagues at the Calgary Police Service are still working on that and ensuring that people are being safe in all of their doing. Try to spread your walking out. I'm a night owl. And as the weather is starting to get better, evening walks or night walks, after a lot of other folks have gone, have been a great thing. But remember that we have made an enormous, giant collective effort. And that enormous, giant collective effort has saved people's lives. We have no margin of error. We have no capacity for mistakes. We cannot waver from that giant collective effort now. Together, we can do this. Clean hands, clear heads, open hearts. Remember, stay home, be kind to everyone. Together, we'll save lives. Let's go to questions. Operator, can you put the first question through, please?
I certainly can. The first question is from Madeline Smith of the Calgary Herald. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hey again, guys. So I will have a question and a follow-up. If it's not warm this weekend, the warm weather is coming. Looks to me like early next week is going to be quite warm, although, still several days away. But as that increases, is there going to be more of a presence of bylaw or other enforcement in public spaces just to make sure people are following physical distancing as they're out? Or how is the city planning to deal with that as it might start getting more difficult to keep people inside?
Yes, you're going to see more of a presence in places where people congregate. Remember that our goal is never to write people tickets. Our goal is to help educate people on the behavior that is the right behavior at this time. So, for example, we're going to have bylaw officers at the dog parks as the weather gets nicer to really, frankly, investigate whether off-leash dog parks can still be safe. And to really see what kind of behavior people are undertaking and to educate them in being better about that. And yeah, so you will see more of a presence. Again, really focused on helping people do the right thing. Do you want to add anything to that, Tom? Okay. You got a follow-up, Madeline?
Yeah, I just before I get into my follow-up, is there any more specific about, how many more bylaw officers are going to be out there, or like if there's hotspots in the city that you're looking at?
Well, we're not, we certainly didn't hire a whole bunch of new bylaw officers, but we are absolutely in an all hands on deck situation. And we're able to divert people from perhaps other things that they're working on into really making sure that this is our top public safety priority. Sorry, I don't have any numbers for you, but you should see more visibility.
Okay. And then in terms of follow-up, the city of Vancouver, I believe, is seeing the vast majority of its 311 calls are now COVID-related, people making complaints about people not following social distancing. Do you have any information on what the city is seeing in terms of volume of complaints to 311 that are related to the pandemic?
It's funny that you ask that, Madeline, because normally when we're not in a state of emergency, I spend a lot of time with those 311 dashboards, making sure I know what's important to people. And I haven't seen one in a couple of weeks. Last time it was about property tax deferrals was the number one issue that was being called. But do you know, Tom?
I think since the start of COVID, around 6,000 calls just on COVID.
So Tom says around 6,000 calls just on COVID. There is a community dashboard available at calgary.ca that can show you some of the things that are interesting, but certainly broadly writ, this is obviously a major concern for people, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I know that a few weeks ago, if you included the questions about property tax and utility deferrals, that was the vast majority of the calls 311 was getting. All right, let's go to the next question, please.
Thank you. The next question is from Kevin Nimick of CTV. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. I want to follow up with the Calgary Stampede. As you said earlier,
Kevin, every single day.
It'll keep happening. As you said earlier in the week, you are analyzing, as well as the other board members, analyzing whether it's possible to go forward with a Stampede that is safe for people to attend. As you know, lots of events that happen after the Stampede is meant to happen on July 3rd have already been canceled. Will the Calgary Stampede be canceled? Do you think it's a good idea to go forward?
You know, as I said earlier this week, that is a decision that is made really on three fronts, and I'm going to add a third front to at least give you something. Because earlier this week, we talked about how the Stampede Board is very responsibly thinking about what they need to do and their responsibility to all of their vendors, to all of the small businesses, to all of the others who rely on the Stampede. Number two is we're analyzing the data every single day and trying to make forward models for what the world is going to look like in July, which is, as you can imagine, tremendously difficult. Number three, and this is kind of the new one, is I also know that the province is working hard thinking about its own health orders, how long they need to be extended. There's some very boring technical stuff in here around some amendments to the Emergency Management Act that are being considered by the legislature right now, and what powers that does and does not give people. But ultimately, I think you're probably going to ask me that question a couple more times and get a lousy answer until sometime in the next week or two. We'll probably have a better answer on go or no go. All right, next question, please.
Thank you. The next question is from Daniel Austin of the Calgary Herald. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Nenshi. I actually have two quick ones here, but you've asked people not to get together in parks, even if they're keeping 2 meters apart. And I understand there are sort of competing needs between, physical and mental well-being versus infection prevention. But we haven't told the 2 meters of distance between ourselves and others is sufficient in terms of preventing the spread of COVID-19. So I'm just curious, what has to happen for you to be able to sort of see yourself standing at that podium and saying that the benefits of going to parks actually do outweigh that sort of infection prevention need?
So let me be very, very clear. You can go to the park, and you should go to the park. You should go to the park in your own neighborhood. I'd prefer if everyone doesn't all go to Princess Island Park, for example. But when going to the park, you should stay at least 2 meters apart. You shouldn't touch anything. And when you get home, wash your hands before you do anything else. That's very basic. You might even want to change your clothes at the moment that you get home. What I am saying, however, is don't plan a picnic with all your friends thinking that being 6 feet apart is going to save you. The 6 feet apart or the 2 meters apart is not a magical amulet that is going to protect you. It is a safety precaution that you should take if you have to be out. So it's the same as wearing one of those fabric face coverings. It doesn't supply full protection. It doesn't protect you from others. It protects others from you, but it's better than nothing. And so the 6 feet or the 2 meters, think of that the same way. That if I must be out in any of the four things I've talked about that are reasons to be out, then I have to take that precaution. But arranging, a picnic or a wine night out and thinking it's going to be totally fine to be with all my friends as long as we're 6 feet apart is not how you should be thinking about things. You had a second question?
Fair. Yeah, and I was reading there are some cities, and I think Belfast was one of them, that have closed parking lots at parks, but not the parks themselves. And that would seem to sort of encourage people to stay at parks close to their home, as you have encouraged. Is that something that's being considered at all?
Tom addressed this a little bit. We've certainly thought about it, and my understanding, and I shouldn't speak out of turn, but my understanding is that is happening at more popular sort of hiking trails and so on to try and prevent people from going to those places. We are actually just sort of asking people to use their own discretion. There may well be people who work or live in a neighborhood where it's just not, it doesn't make sense to be able to go for a walk in nature in your own neighborhood. But you know what? I've been saying this for weeks now. If you're going somewhere and you have a good reason for going there and you see the parking lot is full, just keep going and find somewhere else to go. Ultimately, we're not thinking that it makes a ton of sense to close off people's opportunities, but I'm also going to tell you that options remain open. And I don't want to sound like your dad and say this is a privilege, not a right, but it really does depend on how people are behaving in those areas. And if we're finding that there are threats to public safety, we will not hesitate to close those parking lots or those parks. Tom, you were walking up to the podium. Did I get it?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Next question, please.
Thank you.
See, it's just because I'm at the
next
podium. I
question
should
is from
leave you at the
John
podium to
Dipple
answer
of
these
CBC.
things. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. I was wondering if you could provide an update on city staffing issues and levels. Have heard from some full-time city staff this week that they have either been laid off or there are others who are getting reduced hours. So can you shed some light on that with some data?
Well, I'm surprised to hear what you're hearing because there may be a couple of isolated cases here and there, but there have been no decisions made to go beyond the approximate 10% of city staff who we have unfortunately had to lay off over time. I know I've been talking to some other mayors, and I know that other mayors are in a position where they are thinking about having to let more of their staff go. Certainly, we are constantly in a state of looking at our workforce. Right now, in most of our essential services, I'm actually more concerned with having enough people. So, when we talk about waste and recycling, for example, we have to make sure that we have enough people who are not on self-isolation in order to be able to do that work. But ultimately, it's a big corporation, and we've got to make sure that we are being responsive to the needs of citizens, but we're also being very thoughtful in how we spend our money. So I don't have any more for you on that today, but it would not be surprising if we had more to say about that in the upcoming weeks.
Okay, and just one other data point, just wondering if you had any more recent information about the number of city workers working remotely and the number of COVID positive cases amongst the city staff.
Last I heard, 5,000 working remotely and under 20, is that still correct? Yeah, so about 5,000 working remotely and somewhere in the high teens of our city colleagues who have been infected. What I don't know is how many have gone through recovery yet. That'd be an interesting number for us to find out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Next question, please.
Krista Dow, Global News. Please go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking the question. I had a question about the street sweeping. With everyone working from home these days, and obviously the cars are parked on the street in a lot of places, where are they going to go? Are you guys considering, moving them into church or school parking lots?
Do you want to take that one, Troy?
So good question. Alternate places for people to park during the parking ban, which is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. just on weekdays. So we used to sweep on weekends, and that, again, was a busy time for streets to be parked. But as you say, streets are parked fully during the day. So we recognize that. We have reached out to a number of local neighborhood community associations and rec centers, and they've opened up some of their space. So you will need to check with those agencies because it depends on the area. You also have alleyways that are available. Just respect the garage access, though. Don't park behind someone's garage. So there's some alternate options for you. And this year, different than previous years, is it's not the full parking restriction that's required from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's really just when our operation's going by. So you'll be able to park immediately following our crews that pass and then be back on the street again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks very much, Troy. It really is that one. It's just about being alert, and you'll be able to see the trucks on that app, and literally you can go drive around the corner, let them do their work, and come right back if that's something that makes sense. But we're looking at as many options as possible because it is important, right? As Troy mentioned, this is important to prevent that material from getting into the waterways. It's important for air quality. It's important for everybody's safety. Especially as the kids are getting out on bikes and skateboards to make sure that we're clearing that gravel. So we really do look forward to everyone's cooperation. Next question, please.
Yes, the next question is from Kristen Anderson of Post Media.
Hi, Mayor Nenshi. I'm just wondering, the federal government announced today that they are providing a $500 million injection into the arts, culture, and sports sector. I'm just wondering if you could give some clarity into how that would affect Calgary organizations locally.
Thanks for that question. I will answer it, and then I will also answer another question I was hoping someone would ask about the other announcements that the federal government has made today. So I was very pleased and a bit surprised to hear the Prime Minister this morning talk about that $500 million injection into arts, culture, and sport. We don't really know yet how that is going to be distributed. What I can tell you is that performing and visual arts organizations are in real dire straits. These are organizations that rely on ticket sales, whether it's tickets to the theater or admissions to the gallery or museum, to be able to survive. And of course, we've cut off, for many of these folks, half of their season. So museums, galleries, science centers, performing arts organizations, and so on. So this is actually a very, very welcome announcement, because I've been very worried about how we're going to make sure that these folks will be able to put on their next season and how they'll be able to continue the work that they do. I don't have any real details on how that money is being distributed. I assume it'll probably be through the existing granting organizations like the Canada Council for the Arts. But it was a very, very good announcement, and I was very pleased to hear it. It's going to be a lot of breathing room for a lot of folks who've been very worried about their survival. The other big announcements, of course, that the federal government made today relate to a package of aid for the energy sector. This is something that we have been advocating on as mayors and as folks in Alberta for some time. Again, I have to analyze the details, but I was very, very pleased to see those announcements. The Orphan Well announcement was very welcome. I do believe, by the way, that it is important to do this. It's important to get people working. It's important to reclaim these lands. I also think it's important in cases where we can do it to make sure that we go after the people who incurred the liability. This should not be seen as a blank check for companies to say, look, you can do pollution and then just go away and the taxpayer will pick that up. It was a great announcement. It was the right thing to do, but it should not ever be seen as a carte blanche for companies to pollute the environment or to give up on the liabilities that they have incurred in doing their business. The other big piece, which I don't have any details on yet, but it really was around liquidity for small and medium-sized players in the energy sector who frankly are running out of money. And they needed that announcement. And I was very, very happy to see that announcement being made. Again, that's going to save a lot of jobs, and it's going to let a lot of people sleep easier at night. All right, next question, please.
May I just follow up?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and just going back to the arts, culture, and sports sector, you mentioned some of the hardest, particularly the hardest hit organizations locally, and I don't want to sound like complaining or whatnot, but is that piece of the pie that Calgary organizations will get large enough to even make a dent in their needs right now? And maybe you can't comment on that, but just wanted to throw it out there.
I think it will make a difference. If you think about Alberta being about 10% of Canada, let's say that's about $50 million for Alberta. Calgary doubled our arts funding last year, but that amount of money would equal roughly, I'm really doing math in my head, but that amount of money, if it's doled out properly, would roughly equal the annual funding for the arts municipally in Calgary. So it's not a small amount. I can't really answer whether it's enough, but I will say it's a meaningful amount. All right.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
Yes, from Tahira Farouzan from CBC Calgary.
Hi, this is a street sweeping question for Troy McLeod. Just curious, if people are unable to move their car and they're unable to sweep up afterward for whatever reason, could they still face a fine later on down the line?
Sorry, could you repeat that last part again?
If people are unable to move their car for whatever reason and then they're unable to sweep up afterward, could they face a fine later on in the year?
So what is happening? Yeah, if you're unable to move your vehicle, we will be recording license plate information as our crews go by. And if you're able to have a neighbor help you or sweep up that material and double bag it, we'll come by in July. If it's cleaned up, there'll be no tag issued. So there is a second opportunity to avoid a tag. The first opportunity is obviously have someone move your car for you or make arrangements to have it somewhere else for that day. And if you're unable to do that, we'll certainly have that opportunity to sweep up afterwards. And then if you are having trouble, just contact us, phone us, say you're having difficulty. We understand this is a difficult time, so do get out, phone us through 311, or you can contact Roads directly, and we'll make arrangements with you that way. So that's an opportunity as well. But the best way is just to have the vehicle out of the way when the signs are up, or you can look on calgary.ca/sweep. You can get an alert. You can do a number of things to find out when that's happening, and we're not changing any dates this year. In years past, the weather would push some of the schedule back and we'd have to adjust dates as we went. The date that's set for you now is a date that'll happen, so that there'll be no changes. And if we aren't able to get to that street for some reason, we'll come back later in July and do that street then. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Troy. Next question, please.
Yes, next question is from Kevin Nivik of CTV. Please go ahead, Kevin.
Hi there. I have another question for the mayor.
All right. Is it about the Stampede?
Not this time. As you know, lots of businesses and public places are closed, like libraries, where homeless people would traditionally use the washroom during the daytime. I've heard from a few homeless people that this is creating a big issue for pretty obvious reasons. Is there anything you're planning on doing to help these folks out?
Yeah, it is, in fact, a very big issue. And as you know, mayors like to talk about nothing more than we like to talk about toilets and washrooms. It's a really important part of what the city does. So we actually had an update on this from Katie Black, who is our General Manager of Community Services today. And she actually talked about it in a beautiful way. She said, let's think about the real problems we're trying to solve. So yes, part of the problem is someone needs a place to go to the bathroom, and we can solve that problem. But let's use this COVID opportunity as a chance to say, how did that person get into the situation where they don't have a place to go to the bathroom? And can we use this as a chance to accelerate our Housing First initiatives, getting people into stable housing, because we have a chance to really talk to them? Can we use the 24-hour shelter services at the convention center, as well as at the existing shelters, which are now running 24 hours, to really say, here's a chance to talk to people about matching them with services that they need? So it's a broader answer to your question. The simpler answer is we're looking at a number of different ways to make sure that folks have somewhere to go during the day. That includes ensuring that those who are at the convention center actually have a very pleasant place to spend the day, and it's really done nicely with social distancing. It means working with our shelter providers to ensure that people have access there. There's also a question around food security to make sure people get a chance to have a meal. Now, that may end up in the creation of day shelter spaces. That is something that is under consideration right now. The challenge in doing that, of course, is you want to make sure you're doing it in a way that still allows people to be physically distant. But it is really interesting how pulling on the thread of the people have nowhere to go, actually leads to a much more interesting discussion about how we can help people through this crisis, maybe have a positive shift in the trajectory of their lives. All right, so we'll take maybe two more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So next question, please.
Darren Kraus, Livewire Calgary. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks so much for taking the question. I want to go to transit for just a quick moment. Obviously, we know that there has been a reduction in the number of commuters daily. Now, we have a pilot project running up in Livingston area, Livingston, Carrington, that is the on-demand pilot. With some of the routes that maybe aren't seeing high volume, have we at all considered expanding the on-demand to some of these routes?
Yes, that's an easy answer. The folks in transit are constantly revising how they are serving people with the changes in ridership. So in some cases where there are manufacturing companies, for example, providing essential services, we've actually seen increases in the number of people on each bus as we've decreased the frequency. And so we've really been shifting things back and forth. But absolutely, on those very, very low frequency or low ridership routes, there really is an opportunity for us to think about a more of an on-demand model. And I know my smart colleagues in transit are currently thinking about how to make that work.
I do have a second question. This one might be more for Chief Sampson. In a lot of other jurisdictions, they are starting to talk about how they're reopening things, maybe not just the economy, but also some of the physical distancing measures. And a lot of it seems geared towards basically walking back the step-by-step approach that we've taken up to this point, whether it's the number of people allowed in crowds and maybe some of the businesses that are allowed open. Do you expect there to be just basically a walking back of some of the steps that we took to get here as a means for how we're going to kind of back out of this whole process?
Maybe I'll start, Tom, and then let you take it over. I just want to give you a little analogy, which is, do not think that when we get to the other side of the mountain, it'll be like opening the floodgates on the dam. It'll be like opening the faucet very, very slowly. And people around the world, including smart people here in the city of Calgary, are thinking really hard about what each click of that faucet is and the order that goes in. And I don't have any real answers for you now, but I can tell you that is probably the number one question facing folks who are spending time thinking about the recovery on the other side of this. Tom?
Thanks, and it's a great question that we keep on getting around when will we do that? And I think the mayor mentioned earlier sort of the R-naught values currently of what we understand that we're in, and we will certainly take the lead from Alberta Health. If those numbers come way down and we see less cases of COVID and the capacity to perhaps do something differently, we'll take it. What I need to say at the same time is that we haven't done some things that others have done. We've kept our parks open. We've kept our pathways open. We've not closed parking lots yet. And so in terms of taking steps back, we don't need to, undo those things. We've not canceled people sitting on a park bench, although if I sat on a park bench, I wouldn't be putting my hands on it, and those sorts of things. So there's a number of things that we've not done that we didn't feel were that there was rationale to do, and as a result, some of the stepping back to normalcy, not as much for us yet. And again, we need to see those R numbers a little bit better. If I can, I'll just take a moment while I'm at the podium to just address another issue. I had seen a report, and I got a text that I had looked at 2 weeks of data. So I need to tell you that the 311 calls on COVID since March 6th are 11,120. So that's roughly 4 weeks ago. And so I had been looking at 2 weeks of data. So that represents about 15.6% of our 311 calls. And if you look in the last 7 days, 950 of those calls were COVID related, and 184 of those 950 were related to our people physically distancing the way they need to do. So I like the term that a few people use. I heard His Worship say it a little earlier, the mayor, and I've encouraged my staff downstairs, when people get in my bubble, I kind of back up, then I back up again. And if they don't get the hint, I say, dude, you're in my bubble. And so we have that talk about, and it needs to be okay to challenge people on that. So thanks for that, and great question.
Thanks. We'll go to the final question if there is one.
Yes, the final question is from Krista Dow of Global. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Hey guys, so I just had a question about the the Park Safety Squad. You had mentioned that you're always looking to get or educate first and then enforce. So I'm wondering what residents can expect this weekend. Are you, I guess, just going to ticket the most egregious violators, or like how is that going to break down?
I'll turn that one over to Chief Sampson.
Thanks, Annette. I would say we're looking at the egregious violators. That's what we're looking to deal with. Our bylaw, and I think this is a measure of success, our bylaw officers have not had to issue one ticket. I can tell you that they've talked to an awful lot of people, and they've provided an incredible amount of information to them to underscore the importance of what's going on. And sometimes just the physical presence of a bylaw officer or a police officer can change or can modify the behavior that you're looking for before anybody gets out a ticket book. I went for a run last night, and in the course of my run, I went over to the McHugh Bluff Stairs, or some people call it the curling stairs. And quite honestly, I just wanted to have a look. When I went there, before I even got close, I was with running partners, and we were at least probably 3 meters apart. And somebody said to us as we were getting closer to the base of the stairs, they said, hey, the bylaw officers are just around the corner. And I went, perfect, that's great, right? So, you know what, I think I'm encouraged. I think we're doing the right thing. And I'm impressed that our bylaw officers have been able to talk to people as opposed to write tickets. Please don't assume that they won't do what they need to do if we, the public, can't listen to what they have to say, though. Thank you.
So, Tom, what I really want to know about the story you just told was that distance between you and your running partners because you were faster than them, or you were way behind them?
Last night, Your Worship, I was behind.
As long as you and I don't go running, because we will be approximately 3 kilometers apart, I'll be so slow. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. Remember that we're not out of the woods, and we've been great, and I want to say thank you to citizens for how great you've been, but we got a lot more work to do, and we cannot let up now. Clean hands, clear heads, open hearts, and remember, stay home, be kind. Together we'll save lives. Thank you, and have a great weekend.